In this video, we'll see how to use Angular material table in your Angular project. So before getting started, make sure you have your basic Angular project up and running. You have installed Bootstrap in your Angular project because you'll be using Bootstrap to design your application. And you'll also be requiring to install Angular material. You can refer my previous videos on how to install Bootstrap and Angular material in your project. Now, once you have these things installed, the topics that we'll cover in this video are like how to use Angular material table component in your Angular project. We'll see, we will be fetching some data from an API and we'll populate the data in the Angular material table. We'll also see how to use Mat Paginator for showing pagination on that Angular material table. We'll also use Mat Sort for sorting the table. And we'll also see how to filter the content which is inside the table. So let's get started. So this is the basic Angular application that I have at hand right now. So I already have installed Bootstrap and Angular material in my project. So I'll start by showing you how to add the Angular material table component here. So first we need to import the mat table in our app.component. So I'll just go to my app.module.ts file and add the mat table module. So mat table module you can import from Angular material table. Now once you have imported this thing, you just need to there's a certain structure of creating a table in this thing. So I'll just refer one of the examples here. If you go here, you can see that we have something called a mat table here. So first we'll outline a basic container. Since we already have Bootstrap, so I'll just create a container. Now inside the container, I'll add a table. Maybe simply copy paste the table from here. So as you can see here, I'm just copy pasting the table from here. Just format it. Okay, so now you can see that I'll remove some redundant code from here. We will start with the basic stuff here. So here you have a mat table. We have a normal table where we have added a mat table directory to make it a material table. Now once you have done that, this is the data source that will be binding to the table. So we'll be fetching the data and set a value to this data source variable. Now here you can see an ng container. It's a column definition that we define for each of the columns. So assuming that we have a table column called no that indicates maybe position, so we can add a header for that thing here in the mat header cell. Similarly, we need to define a td also, which we can add the directory as mat cell. Here it's mat header cell. So we define our header here and the mat cell value, whatever we have here. So this whatever columns we have, we'll be defining in the displayed columns array that we need to define inside our app.component.ts file. So and we need to bind it to this t, that's a mat header row. Similarly, we also need to define one mat tr with a mat row director where we need to define the columns list also. So we'll do one thing, we'll just go to our app.component.ts file and define the column names array. First let's fetch some data so we can see what all data we are getting. So here I already have a source file where I'm getting some data from a particular URL. So I'll simply go to this file and use the service and get user data dot subscribe and add the response. I'll just console log the data to see what response I'm getting. Response is response. Now before running the code, I'll just comment out this code because might show some errors right now. So I saved all the files. I'll go to my app.this file. I'll go to the console here. In the console you can see the API response. So as you can see, we have a set of data where we have name, username, email. So we'll do one thing. We'll list out, like we will have one column to display the name, one column to display the username, and one to display the email. So I'll go here to my app.component.ts file and define the stuffs here. So this will be name, other one will be username and email. Okay, now I'll go to my app.component.th file here. I'll uncomment the code, and in here the data source variable I'll define here. Data source. It will be a mat table data source. So I need to add negation here. Okay. Now I'll do one thing. I'll go here and using the data source, this data source, we can define a new mat table data source. This is how you bind data to your mat table. Inside this, you need to pass in the data. So if you see here, uh, we are getting the straightforward data here. It's not in some variable. It's straightforward. The array is a response. So I'll just go in here and I'll bind the response here. Okay, it's okay. Okay, we just added it here. Now I'll go to the app.component.html file here. Now inside this will be name. I'll define add a header also for this thing, and here also I'll use name. Now make sure the this column definition name and the other names are similar to the one that we have defined inside our displayed columns array. Otherwise, it may not work. So I'll copy this thing and replicate it to create one like two more columns. Here it will be username. This will be username. This will be email. Email. Modify here also. Username. Now I'll just save the data. Now if you see here, you should be able to see the material table. Now since you already saw how to use mat table in your Angular project, now let's see how to use pagination this particular mat table. So we'll see how to use paginator component in our Angular application. Before that, if you saw on the data source variable, we use negation sign here. So if I remove the negation sign, you'll get an error like the property the data source has no initializer and it's not definitely not designed in the constructor. So we use a negate sign to remove this error. So this error is because of the new TypeScript version, so which requires you to define variables, which requires you to have like, for each variable to have a default value, so which you need to set in the constructor, or you can provide a negation symbol to let it know that this particular variable will be having some value at runtime. So that's what we are doing here. So that's why I placed a negation symbol here. Now let's see how you can add a mat paginator to your mat table. So we just need to add the mat paginator thing here. I'll go to the paginator component thing here. Here I'll simply copy paste the paginator stuff. We don't need the whole thing. Just copy that. I place it here. Now length and all we don't require here because we are dynamically adding this thing. Now this is the page size that we have. So I'll set it to page size options. 2, 5, 10, 100. That should be good. Now we also need to add refer this thing. So I'll just add a template ID to this thing, paginator, and I'll use viewchild in our app.component.ts file to access that thing. Viewchild. Inside viewchild, I'll define the ID, paginator. Here also, the value will be set at runtime. Mat paginator. Okay, and here, what you can do once the data source has been set, you need to set the paginator value of the data source to our this paginator. Now if I run the application, there's some error. Okay, we need to add the thing to your app.component app.module.ts files also. Mat Paginator module. That should be good. Now once you have done that, you can go to your application here. You can see, okay, the paginator is not showing up though. Okay, it should be outside your table, not inside. I'll go to app.component.html file here. I'll just cut this thing, put it here. Now if you see, you can see that the paginator is getting displayed. Here the values are here. So if I move along, you can see the value changes. We can also display 25 records in one page also. Now let's see how you can add a sorting functionality to this mat table. So for that we'll be using sort header component of Angular material. For that, first you need to go to your app.module.ts file. Then you need to add your sort module, the mat sort module. Now once you have added the mat sort module, you need to add a directive to here, mat sort. Now once you have the mat sort directive added here, you need to go to component.file here, and you need to add a virtual reference to mat sort. Inside I'll add mat sort and define a variable mat sort Okay, now once you have done this, the place where you are resetting your or you are setting your data source, you can add data sort and set it to your mat sort module, to your mat sort variable or your mat sort virtual component here. You know, you have set this thing. Now if you go to HTML here, and here also to show that icons related to mat sort, you need to add mat sort header directive. Now I'll just save the data. I'll go to my sample. Now here I'll refresh. If you can see here on hover, you can see the icon. So I'll increase the number of records. Now it's unsorted at the initial stage. Now if I click on this one, you can see it's getting sorted in ascending order, C, E, G, and up to P. Now if I click again, it gets sorted in descending order. As you can see. Now if I click it on and again, it will be unsorted, the default one. So this way you can add mat sort header to each of the columns also. So now if I add this sort header to the username also, you can see the sorting stuff there also. See, if I click here, you can click on it to sort by alphabetical order and descending order. So that's how you can use a mat sort module, or like a sort header module, and Angular material table for sorting columns. Now let's see how you can add a filter to this mat table. I'll start by adding some HTML code to our app.component.html. So here, as you can see, I just added a div and a mat form field under input. For this thing, you make sure that once you have added this thing, you go to your app.module.ts file and add mat form field module and mat input module. Now once you have this thing, you can see when you save all these things, you should be able to see this filter text box here. It's showing some auto suggestions. We can turn it off. Just add autocomplete off, and let's add a key up event also for filtering, and we'll call a method called filter data, and we'll pass in dollar event. Okay. Now you can go to your app.component.ts file and add this method which accepts the event from there, and the data source that we initialize with the table and all, it has a filter thing. You just need to pass in the database needs to be filtered. Even dot target dot value, that's the value of the text box that we enter in there. And I'll just save it. And if I go to the application, right now it's displaying like 2 records. Let's add set the default as a bit higher. Let's add a default as 20 or like 25. Now if you see, you should be able to see all the data there. Okay, now the all data is showing up. So let's try filtering. So if I type in CE or CLE, Clementine, Bosch, Clementine, Dirk. If I turn it out, and if I let's say KAR, let's type in KAR, that's filtering. So that's how you use filtering stuff, or like how you filter data in your Angular material table. So I hope you find this video useful. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.